Right now, in one of the most volatile maritime choke points on the planet, United States Navy destroyers are operating in a continuous live-fire combat zone. The Bab el Mandeb Strait, a narrow 20-mile wide channel connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, carries over 10% of global seaborne trade. And now it has become an active battleground again. Recent reports confirm that U.S. warships are not just patrolling, they are actively defending commercial shipping against complex asymmetric attacks. That might sound like a standard escort mission at first, but it is not. Not here, not now. Because this is not about chasing pirates in speedboats, this is about intercepting ballistic missiles and drone swarms to keep a vital artery of the global economy from flatlining. And the big question hanging over every radar sweep is this: what happens when the defense gets overwhelmed? The destroyers currently bearing the brunt of this operation include ships like the USS Carney, the USS Gravely, and the USS Mason, all Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyers. These are some of the most advanced surface combatants ever built by human hands. These ships are massive. We are talking about vessels roughly 510 feet long, displacing close to 9,000 tons of steel. They are packed with the Aegis Combat System, Spy-1D phased array radars, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and vertical launch systems loaded with standard missiles. They are designed for high-intensity, multi-domain warfare, air defense, missile interception, and anti-submarine operations. But here is the catch. They are currently fighting a relentless war of attrition against cheap, mass-produced drones and improvised surface threats. So why are billion-dollar warships hunting $1,000 drones? Their role is absolute area air defense and sea control. They act as floating fortresses, casting a massive electromagnetic shield over the vulnerable, slow-moving commercial cargo ships transiting the strait. Because make no mistake, they are not alone out there. Hostile forces have established a sophisticated network of coastal radars, mobile missile launchers, and drone launch sites hidden deep in mountainous terrain. Everything is watching the shipping lanes. So picture this for a moment: a U.S. destroyer escorting a massive, unarmed commercial tanker through a narrow, shallow channel. Sirens sounding in the Combat Information Center as multiple incoming tracks break the radar horizon. How quickly could that turn into something else? This is where things get more complex than most people realize. Defending a strait is not just about shooting down one type of weapon. It is about defeating a layered, multi-axis attack, and every single interception carries immense tactical risk. One of the most dangerous threats they face is the anti-ship ballistic missile, or ASBM. These weapons are launched high into the atmosphere, pitching over and plunging toward the ocean at hypersonic speeds. To defeat them, the destroyers rely on the SM-6 and SM-2 interceptors. This involves the Aegis system calculating the exact geometric intercept point in space and guiding a supersonic missile to a kinetic kill. It is incredibly precise, and it minimizes collateral damage, but it requires the ship to expend its most expensive and capable interceptors. And while that high-altitude engagement is happening, the ship coordinating that defense is still exposed to threats closer to the surface. So you have to wonder how long a ship can sustain this operational tempo before its vertical launch cells run dry. Then there is the threat of low-altitude sea-skimming anti-ship cruise missiles and one-way attack drones. To counter these, the U.S. Navy utilizes the Evolved Sea Sparrow Missile, or ESSM. These interceptors are specifically designed to maneuver violently at low altitudes to destroy targets hiding in the radar clutter of the ocean waves. The advantage is that ESSMs can be quad-packed, meaning 4 missiles fit into a single vertical launch cell, drastically increasing the ship's defensive depth. But it is not a perfect shield. Sea conditions matter, atmospheric ducting can manipulate radar waves, and modern drones can be programmed to fly circuitous routes to attack the ship from blind spots. So even with Aegis tracking the sky, would you trust it completely without human vigilance? Some of the most dangerous weapons do not fly at all. They operate right on the surface of the water, mimicking the threat of traditional naval mines, but with active propulsion. Unmanned Surface Vessels, or USVs, are essentially drone boats packed with hundreds of pounds of high explosives. They are low profile, difficult to detect on radar among the cresting waves, and fast. To deal with these, the destroyers cannot rely on high-altitude missile interceptors. Once detected, these explosive boats must be engaged with direct-fire kinetic weapons. The ships use their Mk-45 5-inch naval guns, 25mm chain guns, and even crew-served machine guns to destroy the USVs before they get within blast radius. It is a method that requires visual identification and manual gunnery, a stark contrast to the automated missile intercepts happening miles above in the stratosphere. The problem is that stopping a swarm of USVs requires absolute precision under extreme stress. A single boat slipping through the defensive perimeter and detonating against the hull is lethal. To push the defensive perimeter further out, the destroyers rely heavily on their embarked aviation detachments. MH-60R Seahawk helicopters are the eyes and claws of the surface fleet. They launch from the flight deck and fly over the horizon, using their own surface search radars and forward-looking infrared cameras to hunt. They actively scan the coastline for USVs and drone launch sites, preparing to fire. When they locate a hostile drone boat, they do not wait for it to reach the shipping lanes. The helicopters engage them directly using Hellfire missiles or precision-guided rockets. They reduce the burden on the destroyer's close-in weapon systems and keep the threat at a safer distance, but they are not foolproof. Helicopters have limited flight times, and operating them continuously in a high-threat air defense environment complicates the airspace management for the Combat Information Center. The tactical action officer must ensure a friendly helicopter is not caught in the crossfire when a standard missile is launched from the deck. In a place like the Bab el Mandeb Strait, that complexity increases dramatically. Here is something a lot of people do not think about. Destroyers possess a final automated layer of defense known as the Phalanx Close-In Weapon System, or CIWS. If a drone or missile survives the outer layers of SM-2s and ESSMs, the CWS radar detects the incoming threat and automatically opens fire. The system utilizes a 20mm Gatling gun that fires up to 4,500 rounds per minute, creating a literal wall of heavy armor-piercing bullets. It is the absolute last line of defense. If the CWS fires, it means the threat is mere seconds away from impact. It is fast, automated, and brutal, but relying on it means the ship is in immediate mortal danger. There is also a brutal economic reality to this operation that military planners are struggling to solve. The financial asymmetry of this conflict is staggering. An SM-2 interceptor costs over $2 million per missile, and the SM-6 costs over $4 million each. They are firing these highly sophisticated, multi-million-dollar interceptors to destroy loitering munitions that cost less than $20,000 to manufacture. It is a tactical victory every time a drone is shot down, but it is a strategic drain on the defense budget. How long can a Navy afford to trade millions of dollars for thousands? This economic warfare is a calculated strategy by the adversary, designed to bleed the fleet's resources dry while keeping the shipping lanes paralyzed. The logistics of modern naval warfare present a massive vulnerability in this scenario. An Arleigh Burke destroyer has a finite number of vertical launch cells. Once those cells are empty, they cannot be easily reloaded while pitching and rolling in the open ocean. The ship must physically leave the combat zone, transit to a secure deepwater port, and use heavy shore-based cranes to carefully lower new missiles into the silos. This means every time a destroyer exhausts its magazine, a gap in the defensive line opens up. Beyond the financial and logistical cost, there is the undeniable human cost. The physical and psychological fatigue on the sailors manning these destroyers is immense. When operating in a high-threat environment like the Red Sea, the ship enters elevated readiness states, often cycling between Condition 2 and Condition 3 watches. This means the crew is divided into port and starboard watches, working grueling 12-on, 12-off shifts, or sometimes standing watch for 18 hours straight. Sleep becomes a rare and interrupted luxury. The constant blare of the general quarters alarm shatters any attempt at rest, forcing sailors to sprint to their battle stations in full protective gear. For the radar operators staring at the glow of the consoles, eye strain and mental exhaustion become severe operational hazards. A single lapse in concentration after 40 days on station could be the difference between a successful intercept and a catastrophic hull breach. Supporting the Aegis Combat System requires an incredible amount of raw electrical power. The Arleigh Burke destroyers rely on 4 massive gas turbine engines to propel the ship, and 3 gas turbine generators to provide electrical power. If the ship loses electrical power, the SPY-Ray-1 radar shuts down. If the radar shuts down, the ship is completely blind and defenseless against incoming missiles. Therefore, the engineers operating deep within the sweltering heat of the main machinery rooms are just as critical to air defense as the tactical action officers. They must ensure the continuous, flawless operation of the generators while the ship performs violent, high-speed evasive maneuvers on the surface. The adversaries are not just firing blindly into the shipping lanes. They are employing sophisticated swarm tactics designed to deliberately overwhelm the Aegis system's processing capabilities. A coordinated attack might involve a low-flying cruise missile approaching from the port side, while a swarm of 5 suicide drones approaches from the starboard side, and an anti-ship ballistic missile drops from the stratosphere simultaneously. The goal is to force the ship's defensive computers and the human operators to prioritize threats in fractions of a second. They are hoping that in the chaos, one single weapon slips through the cracks. It is a high-stakes game of mathematical probability, and the defense has to be perfect every single time, while the attacker only needs to be lucky once. Alongside the American destroyers, Allied nations have deployed their own highly advanced surface combatants. This is where things could expand quickly. The Bab el Mandeb Strait is not just important to the United States, it is critical for Europe, Asia, and global energy markets. Countries like the United Kingdom, with their Type 45 destroyers, and France, with their FREM frigates, have extensive experience in air defense operations. They are actively shooting down drones and missiles alongside the U.S. Navy to keep the sea lanes open. Some already operate similar integrated air defense systems, and some have worked alongside the U.S. in past operations in the Gulf. So the question becomes, if this situation escalates, will this turn into a wider multinational conflict, or will the U.S. continue to bear the massive financial and logistical burden alone? Because the stakes are global, not local. If the strait closes, cargo ships must reroute around the entire continent of Africa, adding weeks to transit times and massively inflating the cost of global goods. This is the scenario no one wants to see. Modern anti-ship missiles and explosive drone boats carry enough kinetic energy and high explosives to cause catastrophic damage. An explosive USV detonating against the waterline of a destroyer can punch a massive hole in the hull, instantly flooding engineering spaces. U.S. destroyers are built to survive severe battle damage. They have reinforced hulls, extensive compartmentalization, advanced automated firefighting systems, and highly trained damage control crews. The legacy of past naval tragedies proved that an Arleigh Burke destroyer can take a massive explosive hit and stay afloat due to the sheer willpower of its crew. In many cases, they could take a hit and fight another day. But that does not mean they would walk away unscathed. A serious missile strike or USV detonation could disable the main reduction gears, knock out the gas turbine generators, flood multiple critical compartments, cause massive fires, and force an evacuation. And in the worst-case scenario, multiple simultaneous hits could overwhelm the ship's damage control capacity entirely, causing it to sink. So think about that for a second. These ships are operating daily in waters where that specific threat is a live reality, not a theoretical exercise. How close are they willing to get? What is happening right now in the Bab el Mandeb Strait is a stark reminder of how fragile global security truly is. A handful of destroyers, specialized radar operators, helicopter crews, and damage control teams are working around the clock in one of the most hostile maritime environments on Earth, all while munitions stores slowly deplete, all while tensions linger, all while the entire world depends on that narrow 20-mile strip of water remaining navigable. Because in a place like this, the margin for error is absolute zero. It does not take much. One missed track, one microsecond miscalculation, and everything changes.